Hi, welcome to Bava Kamma Pei Gimel Amud Bet. I'm going to read and translate the Gemara for you so that you can check your understanding against this video. And as I read and translate, I'm also going to color code the Gemara so that you'll have a sense of how your structure chart matches with the way that I see the structure of the Gemara. Amai. Why? This is questioning the Mishnah, asking why the Mishnah speaks about monetary compensation for damages. Ayin tachat ayin amar Achmana. The Torah says, ayin tachat ayin. This is a quote, because this is a source from Sefaria. It gives you the citation here, and this is the quote from the Torah. So the Torah says, ayin tachat ayin. Ema ayin mamash. I would say, this means ayin mamash. I would think that this pasuk, ayin tachat ayin, means literally an eye for an eye. So I'm going to say that amai is a challenge, a question or a challenge, challenging the Mishnah. And ayin tachat ayin amar Achmana, ema ayin mamash, this is all the support for the challenge. If the Gemara asks why would you think this is the case? And the support for the challenge is, the Torah says ayin tachat ayin, so I would think this means literally poking out someone's eye for someone else's eye. Lo salka daitzcha. Don't think that. You shouldn't think that. And that, I would say, is the rejection of the challenge. Titania, as we learn in a Braita, yachol sime'eteino, misame'eteino. You might think that if somebody blinds your eye, you should blind their eye. Katat yado, mikatat yado. And if someone chops off your hand, you should chop off their hand. Shiberet reglo, mishaberet reglo. And if someone breaks his leg, then he should break the first person's leg. Those are all the things that you might think. Talmud Lamar, therefore it teaches us, it's another pasuk in Vayikra, makeh adam umakeh behema. There is a pasuk about, or there are words in the Torah about hitting a person, and words about hitting or damaging an animal. Mama kebehima l'tashlumin, just as when you damage an animal, you have to pay monetary compensation. Af makeh adam l'tashlumin. So too, when you physically damage a person, you have to pay monetary compensation. I'm actually going to go back and put the psukim in yellow highlight, which is usually what I do so that they'll jump out at you so you'll be able to see them. I would say that Titania starts off the answer to the question of Amai. And this part we could put as part of the answer if we want. Yachol simet I know this is the thing that you might have thought, but you would have been wrong. And Talmud Lamar, that tells you the real answer. The real answer is not that if you break someone's hand, they get to break your hand, etc. The real answer, according to this Braita, is that the Torah tells us makeh adam and makeh behema. It uses the same word for animal and human, and this teaches us that both are subject to monetary compensation, both damaging a person and damaging an animal. And I'm going to go through also, now that we've read a little bit, and bold the key words, just as I showed you on your structure chart. So I'd say Amaya is the really important question word here. Titania also tells you, as we learned in a Braita, that we're kicking off an answer. And Yachol is the thing that you might have thought, also tells you there's going to be an answer here somewhere. And Talmud Lamar, therefore we learn in a pasuk, or therefore we learn, this gives you the sense that here's the real answer. Going on in the Braita, first I'll put these psukim in yellow. V'im nafshech lamar, and if you want to say, this introduces a second answer within the Braita. Harei hu omer, lo tzichu kofar lenefesh rotzeach asher hu rasha lamut. Behold, the Torah says, in Sefer Bamidbar, don't take atonement money for the life of a murderer, because he's evil, he's wicked, and he must die. That's what the Torah says, talking about murder. Don't take money in exchange for his life, you have to inflict the death penalty. That's the Torah. And the Breita says, L'nefesh rotzeach iyata lokeach kofer. For the life of a murderer, you cannot take money. Aval ata lokeach kofer l'rashei ivarim she'ein chozrim. But you can take money for limbs, literally the heads of limbs that don't grow back, which is all limbs, basically. Right? If someone cuts off your arm, it's not going to grow back. So the Breitzel learns in this way from the Pasuk, since it specifically says, don't take money for the life of a murderer, it must mean you can take money in some other situation, and that other situation is if somebody physically damages somebody else. So I'm going to say that V'im nafshech lamar is a key phrase here. It introduces the second answer in the Breita, and all of this is also part of the answer. There are really two answers in this Breita. So Talmud Lamar introduces the first answer in the Breita, and V'im nafshech lamar introduces the second one. Now we're back in the Gemara. We're out of the Tannaitic source and back into the Gemara, which you can see because it switches to Aramaic. Hai makeh. Which makeh are we talking about? This is a question about the first answer in the Breita. Which makeh? Which time that the Torah says makeh? Makeh is a word that's used a lot in the Torah. And there's no pasuk that actually says makeh adam, makeh behema. As is said here, these are two separate quotes. So which makeh are we talking about? Ilema makeh behema yishalmena umakeh adam yumat. If you were to say, Ilema introduces an answer that's going to be rejected. If you were to say that it's from this pasuk, that if you damage an animal, you pay, and if you damage a person, you die, hahu bekatzlaktiv. That's talking about death. That's not a good example, because Rashi spells this out for you, because actually that pasuk is talking about hitting a parent. Hitting a parent has its own special rules in which you are, in fact, it is in fact punishable by the death penalty. But in general, we don't punish hurting somebody with the death penalty, so that's not a good pasuk to use. It specifically says, Makeh adam yumat, that's not going to be a good pasuk to use to prove that the punishment for Makeh adam is the same as the punishment for Makeh behema. Ela mahacha. Rather, from here. Here's a different source for which makeh we're talking about. And I'm going to put ilema in bold, because it is a keyword, and also ela mehacha, which means rather from here. They're both words that indicate answers, though, of course, if you wanted to, in your own structure chart, you could do two different colors. I'm not going to right now, because the ilema introduces an answer that's going to be rejected, and the ela mehacha introduces the answer that's going to be accepted. So maybe it's from here. Makeh nefesh behema yishamena, nefesh tachat nefesh. If you damage an animal, you have to pay back, compensate monetarily, a life for a life, so you have to pay the value of the animal. V'samichle, and juxtaposed to that, immediately following that, you can see it's the very next pasuk. V'ish ki yiten mum ba'amito ka'asher asa ken ya'aseh lo. A person who literally gives a blemish, gives a wound to their fellow person, as was done to them, so they shall do to the other person. So these two psukim are juxtaposed to each other. They're right next to each other in the Torah. And the Gemara wants to say that you can learn from there that the compensation, the punishment, as it were, for damaging a person is just like the punishment for damaging an animal. But the Gemara objects to this answer. Oops, I want to put this all in green so that you see that this is all an answer. The Gemara objects to this answer. Hai lav makehu. This is not makeh. Question mark, exclamation point. In other words, the first pasuk uses the word makeh, and that's the word that we're looking for. But the second pasuk, this one, v'ish ki yiten mum ba'amito ka'asher asa ken ya'aseh lo, that doesn't use the word makeh. So how can you make any kind of gzera shava? How can you make any kind of connection between makeh and makeh? How can you learn something about people from the law about animals if it doesn't use the same word? Usually when we try to learn something from two psukim in the Torah, when we try to combine them, it's because they use the same word. So the Gemara responds, Haka'ah haka'ah ka'amrina. And I could put this in maybe single quotes, right? Hitting, hitting, it says. Or hitting, hitting, they say. Is literally what that means. In other words, it's true that the word makeh isn't used in the second pasuk, but both are talking about hitting. Because when the second pasuk, or damaging, because when the second pasuk says ki yiten mum ba'amito, that you give somebody a blemish, the way in which you give somebody a blemish is by hitting them. Ma haka'aha amara b'behema l'tashumin, af haka'aha amara b'adam l'tashumin. Ma'af means just as, so too. So just as the hitting or the damaging that's said with an animal, the compensation is monetary, as the first pasuk tells us, so too the hitting or the damaging that is mentioned for a person is also done with monetary compensation. In other words, even though it looks like in the second pasuk, I would say probably looks like in the second pasuk, Ishki tenmum ba'mito ka'asher asa ken yaselo, it might look like that's physical, but the Torah says the Gemara says that the fact that it's right up against this pasuk about makeh behema yishalmena tells you that we're meant to read that as monetary compensation. And the ka'asher asa ken yaselo speaks to the fact that the monetary compensation has to be exact. What they did to you, you want to get back from them, but it's speaking about in a monetary sense. Going on in the Gemara, we skipped a little bit here, but that's okay. Umay im nafshech lomar. What is this im nafshech lomar? Which I'm going to put in quotes. The Gemara now wants to know, what does it mean in the Breita when it says im nafshech lomar? May means what? So what is this im nafshech lomar? Im nafshech lomar, if you remember, introduces the second answer in the Breita. That's what that phrase does. And my is a keyword, and the Gemara wants to know, well, if we have answer number 1, why do we need answer number 2? Tu kakasha latana. It was still difficult for the Tana. There was still a kasha, there was still a difficulty for the Tana, the teacher of our Breita. And here's what that difficulty was. Mai chazit yalaf mimakeh behema? Question mark, exclamation mark. Why did you see fit, or what did you see such that you learned out from a case of makeh behema, of damaging an animal? Leilaf mi makeh adam. You should learn from damaging a person. In other words, the Tana wasn't comfortable with learning a law about human damages from a law about animal damages. Animals and humans maybe are not comparable in that way, and maybe we shouldn't be learning one from the other. So this is the response to the question. This is the answer. Right? The reason we needed a second answer is because the Tana thought, I'm not so happy with the idea of learning about human damages from animal damages. Amri, the response would be, the rejection of that question or that idea would be, danin nizakin min nizakin, ve'ein danin nizakin min mita. No, we learn damages from damages, and we don't learn damages from death. In other words, I could just as easily say, what are you talking about? It's a great first answer. It's a great answer because you have a case of damages. Okay, it's with animals, but you have a case of damages, and then we learn about damages to people. As opposed to the second answer, which is a pasuk that talks about the death penalty. Okay, with people, but it talks about the death penalty. And that's a bad thing. That's a bad example to try to learn something about damages from death. Now we go back in the other direction. Adarabba. On the contrary, danina adam adam ve'ein danina dami behema. So this is the answer. This is the answer that the Tana of the Breita would give. Just arguing back the point in the opposite direction. No, on the contrary, we should really be learning people from people, and we should not be learning people from animals. In other words, that was in fact the Tana's problem with answer number 1. You could tell me you disagree, and that it's better to learn nezek from nezek, but in fact, the Tana really thought that learning about human damages from animal damages was problematic. Hainu dekatani, therefore it teaches us in the Breita, Im nafshech lomar, harei hu omer, lo tzichu kofer lenefesh rotzeach, asher hu rishal amut, ki mot shumat. That's the pasuk. Lenefesh rotzeach yeh talokeach kofer, aval talokeach kofer l'rashei ivarim she'in chozrin. That is just a repetition of the Breita. This whole thing here, I could put it in single quotes on the outside. This whole thing is just a repetition of the second part of the Breita, meaning, yes, that is in fact why the Tana gave us the second answer in the Breita, because the Tana wasn't comfortable with an answer that just allowed you to learn human damages from animal damages. And here's the final piece of the Gemara that I want to look at. V'chima achar dichtiv lo tzichu kofer lenef, lo tzichu kofer. But after it says, or since it says, lo tzichu kofer, meaning since we have answer number 2, makeh makeh lamali. This is the flip side of the other question. right? Since it says, answer number 2, Lotziku Kofer, that since it says you can't take money for the life of a murderer, must mean you can take money for a damager. So then why do I need the first answer? If the second answer is good, let's just ditch the first answer. I'd say this tells me that I'm introducing a new topic, and lamali is definitely the question word here. It's definitely the challenge word or the question word. Let's see if I missed any important words here. I might say tuka kashilatana is a keyword there. And of course, you could decide for yourself what you think are the most important keywords as you go through and make your structure chart. So why did I need answer number 1 if I have answer number 2? Amri, the response would be, this is what the Tana would say. Of course, the Tana can't respond in this conversation because this is the Gemara talking. They're not Tanaim. Imehai, if from here, meaning if I only had answer number 2, hava amina, I would have thought, ibai a no-native, v'ibai me a no-native. If I want, I could take his eye, and if I want, I could take the money of his eye. In other words, answer number 2 might have made you think that it's optional. You have a choice. That maybe if I want to, I could do mamash. I could take literally an eye for an eye. And if I want to, I could do money. Dzmeino, the value of his eye. Right? Answer number 2 maybe suggests that it's not mandatory because it's just you just can't take money in the case of a murder, but maybe you can. You have the option of taking money in the case of a damager, but maybe you don't have to. Kamash malan mi behima. Therefore we learn, kamash malan, therefore we learn from animals. Mama ke behima l'tashlemin, afma ke adam l'tashlemin. Just as with an animal we have no choice but to pay with money, death is never mentioned as a possibility, so too when it comes to people, you have no choice. You have to take money for damages and you don't have the option of doing mamash. And I'm going to bold the ma'af again, which are comparison words, just as so too, and often offer us an answer. And I think that that's it for keywords. And I'll bold Amri each time, which maybe is a good clue also. And we'll stop there.